They said, Char, this is crazy. You were blind and now you see. I go, that's right. Yeah, yeah. And they said, so your book came out on time and you're back in the saddle, and we can't tell that you had all this scar tissue in your eyes. What? I said, yeah, because it's amazing when you have incredible medical professionals that believe in the impossible. You
And God,
know.
yeah, believing in God too. He has a different plan for you. Your story is not. Hello, Empower Nation. Welcome to Empower Her Money podcast. I'm your host, Angela Duncan, speaker, best-selling author, serial entrepreneur, and we talk all things money and business. Today's episode, I get to interview Charlene Bodie, and wow, what an incredible story. Talk about living 9 lives, surviving it, and talking today about the influential people that have been in her life, why contacting someone at the top is key and so important, how to have your ask, and so much more. Enjoy today's episode. Hi, Charlene. Welcome to Empower Her Money podcast. How are you today?
Angela, I'm thrilled to be with you.
Yes, absolutely. I was reading over a little bit the information you sent over, and you have lived maybe 12 lives. So I would love you to go as far back as you wish on how you started on this journey.
Okay. Wow. When I think about my media, past and background, I think I would probably have to remember my mom, because she allowed my sister and me to debut on television at ages 5 and 3. I'm the older of the two of us. And she says that she believed from early on that we were going to go to Hollywood. And my dad kind of said, well, okay, honey, well, that's a lot for two little Black girls that don't have any money or connections in the industry to end up in Hollywood. But that's exactly what happened. And she's quite a believer in supporting gifts. And so when I think back to the media start, it probably started with my mom. And by the time I got to high school, Angela, everything about me was about communications. And America does an essay contest called the Bill of Rights Essay Contest. And I won that and had no idea that that would be the open door for my journey to the White House. That one essay caused many leaders, governors, senators to ask my mother if they could take me to a major think tank and if they could put me in front of the president. And I actually was with President Reagan at age 16 on the day that there was a live bomb in the room with us.
Wow. I'm curious to know, what was the topic of your essay? Do you remember?
Yeah, I talked about the freedom of religion that our country has. That I did this study that a country that follows after God, how many successes and how much prosperity we have. And America really is the #1 Christian country in the world. And look at the prosperity our country has always had from the beginning. And the inventions that we've taken to the world, and medical discoveries, and of course, media. And of course, the #1 power place in the world is still Washington, D.C. And I would have to say, as a Hollywood professional, that Hollywood would be a very close second.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So you won the essay. You start to have all of these doors open. Where did you go with your career from there?
Well, I went to university and I started thinking about Hollywood in the back of my head. Our university decided to do a 2-week feature on my sister and I on television. And we started working with this amazing television crew who were students, but they were at the top of their game and they're all working for major networks right now. And I thought to myself, hey, what if we did a television show together? What would that look like? And my sister is the introvert writer, a now award-winning director, screenwriter today. I'm the actor, producer, extrovert. She said, well, let's start chewing on some things. And so that was always in the back of our mind. As I was leaving school as a senior, she was coming on board as a freshman and decided to go the screenwriting route. I went producer route, actor. And I thought to myself, well, let's see how this goes. But in the meantime, I'm going to start working on a national food magazine as an editor, and I'm going to keep, those television wheels churning, and also started a catering company at the same time from the food magazine. So I had some of the top food purveyors in America talking with me every week about features in my magazine, and started dabbling with food. And before I ended up moving to the UK, was actually doing parties for celebrities in Denver in the industry, in the entertainment industry. So a lot of doors started opening. But before I even left college, I sold and wrote a show, a music video show, and that was produced by an American soap star. So all these Hollywood doors, the wheels were still churning. I hadn't decided exactly how we were going to get there yet, hadn't put that plan together, but those doors were opening. And, after I left the magazine, I ended up becoming a federal press officer for the EPA, FEMA, and the US Coast Guard, and was consulting for a lot of different agencies. And again, Hollywood came up again. Quincy Jones' daughter, you decided that she wanted to do a solid waste project and that I should be a co-producer with her in that.
Mm.
And, her father is the person that discovered a guy called Will Smith, the film star. And so she and I worked on this thing. And I tell you what, they said, no way are you going to get Hollywood and the government to do a project together, Shar. We do not do that. There's no way. And guess what? We negotiated that deal. It did happen. I got to co-produce with Jolie Jones the Yakety Yak Foundation music video that appeared as a trailer in every single one of America's movie theaters. Um, Very exciting, because Bette Midler and Kenny Loggins and Barry White and Ozzy Osbourne and all these big luminaries in music were on that music video. And I was just so excited. I thought, here I am a Fed, but I'm also getting ready. I'm inching ever closer to Hollywood. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is so exciting. And so, at some point, I decided to leave the government after my White House assignment. The lead up to that was pretty incredible because I talk a lot in my coaching about the power of snail mail and the power of the ask. And I believe that we should always start at the top. I loved my job in the government, Angela, but I said, I want to work for the most powerful man in the world. I had so many open doors to the White House and wrote a letter to the president. And the president at the time was Bill Clinton. And, I wrote a short, sweet letter. And in 6 weeks, I was getting a call from the White House asking me to come in 2 weeks' time. They said, can you do it? Shar, we've been looking for you. And I just about fell out of my chair. At the time, I was consulting and writing for FEMA in their, press office and traveling to the top disasters in America. And some spy in the Clinton group had seen me working the Northridge earthquake in California, which is one of the last, probably the last most recent major earthquake America has had. And I was working on that, having no idea somebody was spying on me from the White House. And they wondered if I was the girl that wrote the letter. And they were trying to figure out which agency did I work for. And they finally found me at FEMA. And, they said, can you be here in 2 weeks at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue? And I was just shaking. And I said, yes, I can. And they said, Miss Body, welcome to the White House. You are on board. We loved your letter and we did your security check, and Secret Service will meet you at the gate. And I just thought, is this for real? This is like a movie. And of course, I had leave my cowboy boots at home, and all these different women in my life, these amazing women mentors. Somebody did my makeup. My hairdresser in Denver got me the hairdresser that works with Beyonce. Just my clothes got changed. A model from New York City who's a close friend of mine said, I'm doing your whole clothing, your whole trunk, I'm filling it. And I went to, the White House looking like a little black Barbie doll at work every day, and just having the time of my life. And that was, ending with me getting my first White House commendation. I have two, and ended up leaving the White House and putting together the plan for um, the Hollywood dream with my sister, creating a television show from the ground up that we would write and produce ourselves, that ended up being viewed by 312 million people for the bargain basement price, Angela, of $400.
Wow. So I want to talk a little bit. We went through quite a bit of your life story there, and I know there's more to come. But when you think back about some of those early times, especially with your mom and putting you in front of TV, how important do you feel like that presentation, that communication, and some of those skills you were learning from an early age helped when those doors open for you to be able to walk through and take that opportunity?
I think it's huge. I think, women have an incredible ability to multitask. And my mom, without her probably even knowing it, today she's a PhD in psychology and sociology. She's a sharp cookie. And I just am so proud of her and her accomplishments as a single mother. But at the time, she was, Angela, the first person in Indiana to have a 24-hour daycare center. Can you believe that?
Wow.
In the 70s, she was already thinking very entrepreneurially about things. And I don't think in the 70s, a mom is thinking about those kind of things exactly. She just saw a need that women had and no one was filling it, and she filled a niche. And I think that encourages someone like my sister and me. By the time my parents split up, she was already that forward thinking kind of person, and she always thought out of the box, and nothing we wanted to do seemed crazy to her. She's the one that took her kitchen money before my parents split up and said, "Oh wow, my little one, she, actually rates as a genius, but she's an introvert, so I'm going to let her do this." Both of us were in gifted and talented classes, and she thought, but Charlene, she's the showstopper on the stage. She's fine on stage, so maybe I'll just put some pennies to private drama lessons for both girls, so they start learning the industry with top people, top coaches. And that was when we were just little girls. I mean, for me, I'm doing ballet, but every Saturday I'm writing with my sister theater for children, Angela, and we're performing it as little girls, like 7 and 5. We're writing plays and they're performing it. We're doing things in the community, and we're just taking mom's lead, like, okay, we can do this. Of course you can, sweetheart, get out there and do it. But see, our mom had a recording contract when she was 15,
Mm.
and her sister is an opera singer. Her baby sister is a gospel singer. So music was huge. Our grandmother was accepted to Juilliard. She started piano at 3. She was a musical genius herself. And so my mother came from a very strong arts background, which is why we're probably the only 2 Black girls I know right now that could probably hear every black and white star's voice and know who it was as little girls. She'd say, okay, baby, whose voice is that? And we say, oh, that's Doris Day, or that's Humphrey Bogart, or that's Greta Garbo. We knew that before we were 12 years old. And so for us to have a film review show that could go from the 30s, 40s, all the way to the now, it stopped people. I mean, people in Hollywood, by the time that show came together, were saying, where did you come from? We don't know any Black sisters like you doing something like this. And it really took off.
Yeah, and congrats to your mom for one, spending enough time with you individually to recognize what your talents were and to
Yes.
encourage and instill confidence in that. I think a lot of parents today, they get so busy in their lives that they don't get to spend that time and understand what their children's talents are and help feed it from an early age. So that's incredible.
Yeah, I would say one of her specialties as a psych person and therapist and counselor is understanding early childhood development.
Mhm.
We were like reading before 3. And, my uncle's a top pediatrician in Ohio, and he was saying that's impossible. How did you do that? And my mom really understood children. She was constantly teaching, kids things that people weren't thinking about, so that we were always straight A students. We were always student leaders wherever we went, and we were the only Black children in our private school classes. She always instilled confidence and letting us know we can do anything, even though we're from a single parent home.
Hmm. Okay. So you had said something, we're fast forwarding back to your story too, is that you go to the top. Talk about what that means, why you encourage people to do that.
I believe that so many times, people are said, well, those people are very busy to somebody, and oh, that's a nice thought, Sally Sue, but I don't think so. And my first boss out of college said, always go to the top. He told me, he said, he was an architect, and he said, and I was his marketing person, and he said to me, and I'll never forget it. He said, Shar, they can say no, but what if they say yes?
Mm.
And it stuck with me because he was an entrepreneur, and I always thought about thinking outside of the box, and why can't I have a catering company and write for a food magazine and be working on television ideas at the same time? Why can't I do all of the above? Why not? you know and I think it gets you to a high place. And even in college, Angela, I was talking to the senior attorney for the Gap, the Gap clothing company,
Mhm.
and putting together licensing deals when I was 19 years old and getting exactly what we wanted to do, weekends that were all expense paid because of ideas that my sister and I had. And people said, that's impossible. You can't just call the senior attorney of the Gap worldwide. What are you kidding me? You can't do that. I said, why not? Why not? And this is before YouTube. This is before the internet took off. I said, well, I'm going to do the research. I'm going to call him and find out what he is. And I'm going to do the research on the demographics, and I'm going to put together a plan. And they bought the plan, Angela. We did an all expense paid weekend trip for 66 college students. That they covered it really because the licensing agreement I made with the Gap International for a line of sweatshirts and t-shirts that my sister and I designed.
Hmm.
And all we had to pay for that, Angela, was one of the sweatshirts to the senior attorney in his size.
Hmm. Wow.
I
Yeah.
negotiated that, and he said, you can keep every penny you make, Shar, for exactly what you asked for a 12-month licensing agreement. And people could not believe that. And they go, where did you get all that? And I said, well, I made a deal with him. What do you mean you made a deal? You're 19 years old. How? Aren't you afraid of going to court? I said, no. I said, I have an agreement with the senior attorney for Gap International.
Yeah. So challenging current beliefs, creating change.
Yes, and go to the top. And
Mhm.
that's before I even got out of college. I didn't realize what I was doing in business, Angela, as an entrepreneur, until I had that first job. And my boss said, oh, absolutely. Always go to the top. He said, you've already seen what yes looks like, Shar. Keep going. He said, don't stop. Keep
Hmm.
going with yes. Keep going. You're doing a great job. Just keep going. And I never was told no. And I took that all the way to Hollywood. I
Mhm.
can't tell you how many men in the industry have told me women can't do that. We're not interested in the unique vision of women in film. You're out of your mind, Shar. We put the chapter for Denver women in film on the map. We were told by so many men that'll never happen, and nobody wants to see your award show. And no, 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 no. This is a man's game. And I said, well, you can have your opinion. It's a free country, but we're going to do this. We are going to do the unique vision for women in film, and it's going to put us on the map. And we are going to make headway in Hollywood. And now look how many women are running major studios. I'm so excited about that. My sister and I have always been behind the unique vision of women in film.
That's awesome. So, Shar, you've met a lot of influential people over the years, and you've had a lot of
Yes.
collaborations. When you're in business and you have that opportunity, can you talk about maybe some best practices so that you can, give as much as possible to that person, but also utilize that relationship to grow as well?
Yeah, I think that's so important to think about, all the different facets to a person's gifts and talents, and how we steward that, and how we, yes, build your own gifts and talents, but at the same time, as you're saying, work with others in team. And I think that's why I love working in the entertainment industry so much, is that it's a team effort. And I love producing because you have to be able to look at someone's gifts and put it all together. So one of the first things my sister and I did was go for putting together an all female crew.
Mm.
And we looked at each young woman that we had mentored in the business. And someone said to me, are you jealous of so and so because they ended up being a writer producer for Friends. Can you believe one of the young women I mentored became a writer producer for a little show called Friends? And I said, jealous of her? Are you kidding me? No, I pray and hope she goes farther than I ever did. I was so excited for every single one of our girls that we raised up in a group we call Girls in Entertainment, or otherwise in Denver known as the G Force. We are
Mm.
known as the G Force here. And it was so amazing how their gifts and talents were looked at to propel them into the future in Hollywood, in Nashville, in New York for Broadway. And also, there are girls in the G Force in London who became tour managers for groups like the Spice Girls. One of our girls was, connected to that. And became a producer herself. People often ask me, are you jealous of her? Look at where she went from age 19 to, she came to America, you raised her up. She's kind of the UK version of the G Force. Are you jealous of where she went? I said, are you kidding me? No, 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 no. So excited for her. Nothing like getting a call from the MTV Music Awards in Europe and hear one of our girls that we mentored on the other end of the line saying, oh my gosh, I'm here. How did I get here? And I said, doing your great job. We're so proud of you. How can we help you? So I think noticing the gifts in others and then finding out a way that you can collaborate so that it's a win-win for both sides is fantastic. I think that when you make it to a place like Hollywood or the White House, it is your duty as a woman to turn around and raise up that generation coming up behind you. I don't feel like I've done anything unless I turn around and pay it forward with that next generation. We are all about that generation coming up behind us, my sister and I. And it's just been a delight for us to watch all of them where they are and always be there cheering them on in the rafters saying, you can do it. Oh my gosh, I saw that this spark was in your eye and I'm so not shocked where you are now. And to keep encouraging them so they turn around and do the same thing for someone coming up behind them.
Yeah, so teaching and mentoring someone to go further than you have gone, that's a great
Yes.
philosophy. I love that. So
Yeah.
you've had some obstacles in your life and some things that you've had to
Yes.
overcome. I would love for you to share some of those stories and maybe give us some tips on how you got through it.
Okay, well, I would say the first big hurdle for me health-wise was right at the top of my career when I've, just come back from the White House. And for the first assignment at the White House, I was in a head-on collision with a drunk driver, and another car T-boned me the same night. They had to cut my body out of the car. It was the beginning of 6 years of rehab,
Mm,
lots of internal bleeding, closed head injury, spinal cord injury, so many things where the specialists working with me gave up on me. They said, there's no way that you can be talking to us about getting on a plane and teaching a seminar for people in transition in England. You're out of your mind. They picked up my case and they threw it at me and walked out of the room. And I
mm,
said, well, okay. So I called my branding mentors, who are all multimillionaire, successful men in London and who believed in me in my 20s when they met me as an actress in London. They said, you will be an incredible motivational coach and you will end up living in Europe doing this. And they said that to me before it happened. When that car accident happened, I started getting downloads as to how my own transition would look from what was meant to be my deathbed to doing all the things I'm talking to you about today in Hollywood and beyond. And they believed in me and they said, the download you have, we want to launch it. I said, what do you mean you want to launch it? I haven't tried it on anyone. Well, they took it from there, Angela, and they put me in front of 1,000 people without jobs. And
mm,
out of that came the tour manager that worked with Spice Girls, and some of the biggest business leaders who were men in the United Kingdom came out of my first class. It wasn't just for me, it was for the globe. And it
mm.
translates across so many different backgrounds and languages. So it's called the Extreme Dream. And that was one of the things I did, was start thinking in bed, how am I going to get out of this bed? The pain is incredible, but I'm going to keep looking toward the prize, keep my eyes on the prize. I am getting out of this bed. Okay, these aren't the right doctors, they don't believe, but I'm going to keep going with the dream, which I call the extreme dream. And getting around people that, speak into you rather than pull you down. I really think there's basement people in your life, and there are people cheering you on from the rafters and the nosebleed section saying you can do it. And who you surround yourself with, Angela, in times of crisis is key. It
Mhm.
is so key. No one would look at me today, and say, "Oh my goodness, how is that injury?" Because you don't see the injuries. I've also been blinded for 4 months. I got bit by a bug that had 3 different kinds of staph infection on the bug.
Hmm.
They almost had to extract my eyes.
Oh
It
my
was so scary. I'm in the middle of writing books in Europe. I'm traveling. I'm doing television, radio. And I also have an agent because I'm also a plus model. So I'm doing all these print ads and all these things, and my eyes go. I'm
God.
blind for 4 months. That made national news in the United Kingdom because a bug like that typically lives in Africa or India, where there's lots of disease. But what is a bug like that infected doing in the United Kingdom? It made national news. And so I had, again, incredible rock star medical people that just were like, "Oh my gosh, Shar, what now?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, can we do anything about this?" They said, "Well, science says to extract your eyes, but because you're a model, author, international speaker, we're not going to do that. So we got to go back to the drawing board here." So they went to the lab and they created a cocktail that's never been invented, and one for this eye, one for that eye. There is no scar tissue. I had 22 ulcers in my eyes. And again, who was speaking to me? Yes, my faith is huge. Yes, I prayed that there would be a miracle because my body rejects drugs. So they
Mhm.
had to create something that didn't exist before. And all of that went into all the news outlets there. And the BBC came to my house to do an interview. They said, "Char, this is crazy. You were blind and now you see." I go, "That's right. Yeah, yeah." And they said, "So your book came out on time and you're back in the saddle, and we can't tell that you had all this scar tissue in your eyes." What? I say, "Yeah, because it's amazing when you have incredible medical professionals that believe in the impossible,
Mhm.
you
And God,
know?"
yeah, believing in God too. He has a different plan for you. Your story is not over.
Yeah, this is it. And there's been major surgeries too, Angela, where I was given 90 days to live. So I have the top gynecologist in Europe. She also is a believer. She draws procedures in her art book, her medical art book, before she does them. And they said, "She's going to kill you. Nobody's ever done that before." "What do you mean she's going to recreate your uterus?" I go, "Well, she knows that I believe in the fairy tale of marriage and children and all these things." And she says, "Nope, nope. My client, believes in the fairy tale, so we're not cutting out her uterus. I'm going to recreate her uterus when we cut all these tumors out of her body." So twice, I've had death-defying tumor operations, and I've come out victorious on the other side because I always tend to get the doctors now that do the impossible. They believe in the impossible. And of course, I'm still here. I didn't die. But yes, that's the medical side of me. But I've also been kidnapped twice. I've almost been beheaded for being an American in a foreign country.
Mm.
And I've gone through some very perilous things. The first kidnapping, the Denver Police Department says, was with a serial rapist. And I'm the only girl that survived. They said, "How did this happen?" Because that's just crazy. You were 16 years old. Nobody ever got away from that guy. How'd you do it? And I said, "Well, faith is a big thing, and I believe in the power of the name of Jesus. It has saved my life, Angela, 3 times. That
Mm.
is why I'm still here after 2 kidnappings. And second time, somebody didn't want me to testify in a case. So
Mm.
they thought if we kidnap her or put a Molotov cocktail in her car, maybe we'll just silence her. And God showed up, and that didn't happen. And so second kidnapping didn't happen. They what they wanted to do was shoot me in the head that day. It didn't get to happen.
Mm.
God showed up, and I'm still here. Third time with the perpetrator that wanted to behead me and my assistant in the United Kingdom. He said that he would get extra points with Allah if he killed an American. I
Mm.
thought, well, okay, God, here we go. Here we go. Really? I don't go looking for these things, but I think, I've written books about it because the things that are happening in today's world, to women in situations like that, what I've written about can save lives. And
Mhm.
many different people have told me, oh my gosh, Shar, I read that story in your latest book and it saved my life. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm like, well, the police department uses my story in their self-defense classes because it actually works. And I'm just grateful. It makes me on this side of it, Angela, not take life, for granted.
Mhm.
Every day that you wake up breathing and doing what you're on planet Earth to do, to me, is the best day ever.
Mhm.
So I don't take my body for granted. I don't take, all the different altercations I've had with men who were really trying to kill me. I don't take that for granted. And yet, that last thing, that person, because I treated him with love instead of fear, and he decided that he wanted to take on board what my belief system is,
Mm.
and he put down that sword and he said, uh I wanted to kill you, but I just can't do it because you don't have any fear. He
Mm.
said, how come there's no fear and you're talking to me so calmly? I said, well, because my God is love, and um I just don't believe in that. And he said, wow, I want what you've got. He put the sword down, and my assistant just about collapsed when it happened because she knew we were about to lose our heads. A year after the near beheading incident, he said to me, Ashar, can we get together? I want to talk to you. And I said, sure. And he said, that night I was going to kill you and your assistant. I said, I have no doubt. I said, I have no doubt. You made that very clear. And he said, but your God, your faith showed up, and I couldn't do it. He said, and what we're getting at today, Angela, is that love does conquer all.
Mm.
True love conquers all. Every time I've remained calm and just put on that belief in Christ, they didn't know what to do. Either they're going to bend the knee to him or they're going to let me go. And my mother taught me that, Angela. She made a rhyme up for me and my sister. She said, girls, mom might not always be with you, but in the event that you're in trouble and someone is putting you in danger, she said, remember the name of Jesus. They'll bend the knee to the name or flee. And I said, what? What? She said, remember the rhyme. They'll bend the knee or flee. Just use the name. It levels the playing field. It has saved my life, Angela, 3 times.
Wow. So all these experiences that you've been through, what are you working on today?
Wow. We're working on the sequels to my first book. So the first book is True Grit. It's the coaching book. It has the whole program for what got started in Europe with 1,000 people that had lost their jobs. And that's the Extreme Dream Seminar. So I want to do the kids version of that, the success stories, because now parents are saying, hey, you did that with my kids. When are you going to write about their story? And they're phenomenal. They're crazy extreme dream stories that nobody believed in, and they became a reality through the program. But I also have a couples program. The Extreme Dream Weekend with me with couples is so popular in Europe. And so those couples who are now, world changers, history makers in various fields are saying to me, Shar, when are you going to tell our story in a book? So I want to do a couples book. I want to do a kids book. But the sequel, also for No Appointments Necessary, has all my thriller stories, the kidnappings, the near beheading, and how I travel and what kinds of doors open when I travel around the globe, the friends I make, how it happens, the miracles that happen in sticky situations. And that book is No Appointments Necessary. And I want to do the sequel for that. My publisher's given me the green light on all of the above, so we're working on that. And my sister and I also talking about possibly an entertainment podcast. She is now an award-winning screenwriter. She's in the middle of selling 2 films right now. One will be a film franchise. The other will be for episodic television. So the Real Sisters just might ride again. That was the name of our show. It's REEL for film. So we're talking about a Real Sisters podcast because we still have amazing connections in the entertainment industry. And we would love to show where some of these luminaries are now and the projects they're working on, and really highlight those amazing things that are always happening in the business of show.
Yeah. So, Shar, I have a fun question for you. If you could pick a superpower, what would it be and why?
I think, forecasting the future, because so many people would always love to know ahead of time what's happening out of the chute, and it helps people. I think when people can see into the future, their decisions today frame the future, and I
Mhm.
think it would help and alleviate a lot of problems if people could see where their destination is taking them.
That's great. Shar, if our audience wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to reach you?
They can email me at charlene@charlene.com if they want, and that's CHARLYNNE at charlene.com, or charlenebody@icloud.com. Both are synced up to that. They can also give me a shout on Instagram at charlenebody, or LinkedIn at charlene-body. LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, I'm there, and I will definitely give you a shout back. And the website is just purely my first name.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me, Angela. What a pleasure.
Yay. Thank you for listening to Empower Her Money podcast. I am grateful for you. Please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, like this podcast, share it, subscribe, and let's keep teaching others how to take control and be empowered with their finances.